Work session for the city of Gearhart Council is now called to order. Pauline is going to run this since I have just received the paperwork.
Chad, if I could just ask you to kind of time keep a little, so we stay on this schedule-ish.
Will do, man.
Okay. So what you have in front of you started out with something like this that I worked up. It's a Google document. That's what the city uses, and I've managed to learn how to use it myself. And it's really just a dump of things that we used the last time when we went to campaign, to have the campaign for the fire station. Were some things that we had done from the PAC standpoint, and also just a lot of other ideas that I had swirling around in my head about how we keep moving forward. For me and well, at least I would say the majority of the council, we didn't have enough information to move forward in this November. And so this is just my idea of a framework to move to the May election. And from what I brought Chad, he reorganized it, put it into groups or phases. He also worked on the agenda and the discussion guide and the action plan, which is more of a narrative version. This is the same as this big old spreadsheet, more or less, same thing. So we can set this aside a little bit and just use this as we go through what we need to do today. As we all know, our police and fire buildings are unsafe and inadequate. Doing nothing isn't really a good option. The May 2026 ballot is our next realistic opportunity. We want to just figure out, I think, what the five of us are comfortable moving forward doing. And, you know, like you say, these are just my ideas, not everybody else's. The next thing he has here on the bullet is reminder that the $33 to $34.5 million project, are we looking at a remodel? Are we looking at a possibly scaled down version of a new fire station or fire police station? And in my opinion, some public opinion is key. I am willing to move forward with whatever the majority of the voters want. Is basically how I feel at this point. So that's setting the stage. Does anybody have any comments right off the get-go?
Well, I suppose we'll probably get into the conversation more about when you say remodel, I think everybody has a different idea of what that means.
Sure.
And it vary greatly. And so I guess we're gonna need to delve into what are we talking about? What would a realistic remodel be? Because we're not talking about a coat of paint and just changing the electrical over there.
Right.
And what we need to talk, or one of us needs to go have a conversation with Leonard and find out what it is he found out from Oregon building codes. And what we are, if there is anything that can be done.
Yeah, I've had the basic conversations with him. He's still going back and forth with the Oregon State Building Codes. So yeah, I could definitely give you his opinion on that building that him and I have through walkthroughs that we've been doing over the last couple of weeks. And then also to finish off what you were saying, Ms. Klein, together, these options are just things that we've talked about. This is not a guide as to what direction we're headed. And the other option that's missing on here that Sharon was talking about as well is the cottages at Gearhart site. I mean, if all things are going to be considered again, how we're gonna get through that consideration process or that process to consider these different options. And then what do we have to do after that, once we consider those options and started heading into a direction, is what this document that Lina and I have worked on is all about.
So can we just talk, I just have one clarifying question with regard to, what Leonard's working on. Is that, to potentially, try to, rebuild in place? Or is it, to what extent can we rebuild without refoundationing? Or is it, just how bad is this building?
It's a little bit of everything. So one way we were looking at this is to see if there is any way around this unfunded mandate of critical infrastructure to build something here without all of those building codes for critical infrastructure, thus lessening the cost, but also lessening the resiliency. So we're that's taking more time for them to come up with a statement back to us. But they are considering that question that we had, is there any workaround to all of the critical infrastructure code that will then allow us to do this less expensively? And again, with less resiliency. The other thing we talked to them about, and we did get an answer back, is can we remodel that building a little bit? And the answer came back is that yes, we can. Things that Leonard was suggesting was tying in the roof into the walls and the walls into the floor better, so that we could have a few more seconds of evacuation time if there was an earthquake, and that's really what the difference would be, is a few more seconds for the people that are in that building and the equipment that's in that building. He found out that we could, because that building is functioning as a current fire department, if you were to remodel it and put the ventilation in there and get rid of the turnouts, tie in a bathroom and a decontamination and a couple of offices, that we could do that. Even if we had to poke out from the building a little bit and build some new portions to sustain that, all of that can be done on that site without critical infrastructure. They said that their opinion was, and I don't have this written down, but their opinion was that the building is covered, is critical infrastructure, is doing the job. And if we continue to have the main part of the fire station in that structure, and we build out and added some bathrooms and maybe an office, that those two things would not need to be critical infrastructure. It's an add-on, and it's just a larger remodel. So there is a way for us to do that.
But you don't have that in writing?
No, that's what we're working on, that's what we're getting, but this is what's been said to him. And this is how he concurs as well. As a building official, he would sign off on a project where we were doing some things to stabilize the building better. Adding in the ventilation, adding in the bathrooms, adding in all of that, he would sign off on one of those permits as well. He's comfortable with doing that, but we are waiting for more information.
Right, okay.
So no soil remediation potentially.
If we were to take the current building and use it, correct.
And would we be in compliance with all the OSHA stuff?
That's where the money would come into place, is that you'd have to spend quite a bit of money to get the electrical, the ventilation, the bathrooms, all of that. And no, we would not be completely OSHA compliant because that building is a constraint. It's constrained, we can't get it wide enough for the vehicles and things like that, but there is a lot of things that we could do. And then what OSHA would say is, and how to get them involved in the community, in the conversation would probably be prudent as well, but we would be able to do some things. Now, give you an example of a New York Fire Department fire station that they have in those old brick buildings, such as the old Ghostbusters building. They're still using those. They still work. Are they compliant? No. But they've got some workarounds and they've got some things that they're doing. Can we do that here? I'm not entirely sure,
Well,
but it's something worth exploring.
they're not in earthquake territory either.
No, but when OSHA is talking about the distance between engines and the amount of space that you need,
So if we just say we did that, the remodel, does that affect our insurance rates? And how so?
I can't answer that. I think that there would maybe be a slight effect. I mean, the insurance rates now are low because the value and the building value is near zero. The replacement costs are substantial, and I don't think that our insurance company would just replace the building with a new one that would cost $33 million. So I don't know how much of a factor that is. I don't know that it's a large factor.
That's interesting. I was thinking the opposite direction. So you're saying they're low because it's not a value. And I was thinking, well, if we remodel and we're still not in compliance with OSHA, then can the insurance companies say, well, we're gonna raise your rates because you're not in compliance with OSHA stuff? That was my question.
Potentially.
Have you gotten your homeowner's insurance policy yet?
Yes, went
Yeah,
up about 15%.
Mine doubled,
Well,
okay? This is what's going on with all the destruction that's happening in the United States. Every insurance company is broke.
sure.
And so they're gonna, regardless of whether we're a municipality or not, if that's the insurance you're talking about, it's going up.
well, that's quite true. Last year, State Farm made $1.3 billion. That's their profit margin for last year. So they're not broke, they're turning around and they're making their customers pay for the money that they need to pay out in their insurance, but that's beside the point.
So that's what the basic.
So that would just be a question that I had. If we're not in compliance, if we remodel, and we're not in compliance with the OSHA stuff, does that mean because of that factor, does that mean the insurance rates?
I think the insurance that you're talking about would be our risk and liability insurance, and that would be CIS. That wouldn't be necessarily the structural insurance has to do with replacement costs, which will go up because it'd be a more expensive building at that point. But to your point, you want to know if CIS would say you're not, you're taking a gamble and not bringing it up completely to compliance, so you could get charged more. That's her question, I think.
Well,
Thank you.
or OSHA could decide to fine us.
Well,
They would
yes,
say we were, not.
Well, the way that some of that works, some of it, and this is in the building code, and some with OSHA, is that they realize that this is the building we have to work with.
Right.
And so when we go for a building permit, if we were the average Joe and we had a building like that and we went for a building permit to do some remodeling, the building official would then dictate some of the things that you need to do to bring it up to code. Not all of it, because they know that you have a building that cannot go up to 100% compliance. But they'll push you to get some of those things done. And I think that's the round that we'll be in, is we'll take care of what we can take care of based on the building that we have, if that's the decision the council and the public want to head down.
well, so if we were to go to, and I don't want to take us off in the weeds, I don't know where we are in your, if you want to wait to have this kind of a conversation, but we would need to have a conversation about identifying exactly what needs to be done over there. That gets back to what kind of a remodel are we talking about? Are we talking about, typically you would have drains in the floor and nobody even knows how deep that concrete is or what it would take to cut into that to put the drains in that you would need in there.
For
Are we-
decontam, like. for
Yeah, they
decontamination.
need to be able to hose it off. We'd need additional storage. The electrical's not up to par, the plumbing's not up to par. We need to be able to add on new showers, decontamination facilities and changing rooms. That would need to be worked in. So I don't know when we want to have the conversation about that. Should we ask the fire department to come up with a comprehensive list and give it to us of what would need to be done at bare minimum in order to continue using this or to make it safe enough that we could consider a remodel? If that's even practical.
What I would like is, I would like to have Public Works go and
take the backhoe and dig down alongside the west foundation and see how, whether that's a thickened, whether it's a thickened slab footing, and then drill through one of the bays to find out how thick the concrete is. Because if you're gonna try and tie things together, if it's got a thick footing, then you can actually go down and epoxy anchor bolts into the thickened footing and then be able to reinforce the walls.
We would need some assistance in that, but with the fire department and the building officials' help, and then probably a contractor of some sort. You know, we could talk about all of the things that are OSHA requirements, what we would need to add and how to do that, and then come up with some approximate pricing of what a remodel situation would cost. Or we could go through the process and look at, you know, going down to 2 bays, a meeting room, no offices, and see what that would cost us. Would that bring us down to 20 million, you know, or $18 million? We could also talk about the other,
Excuse me, 2
Location.
bays, are you talking about in a new facility?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, if we really wanted to cut, I mean, everything's on the table. I'm not gonna sit here and say, if we went down to 2 bays to make this work, would that be good for the fire department? No, it wouldn't.
Where does the equipment go if you only have 2
We'd
bids?
sell some of it, I don't know, you know, everything is open. You know, do we change the way that we respond and not respond to certain things? You know, do we get rid of the, you know, those are all things we don't want to do. But my point is that you have a lot of different options to start heading towards, but it is really figuring out what people will vote for.
Well, we also have a question of, depending on what kind of remodel we do, does public works go someplace else?
Right, well, I think before we go too much farther into what we would do as far as a remodel, we need to talk to Leonard and find out what OBC, Oregon Building Codes, OBC is going to want and allow to happen. Because then it's a waste of time if we're gonna talk about it and they're gonna come back to us and say, well, no, you can't get any of these waivers. We're not gonna give you anything.
Not for critical infrastructure, but he did say they would allow us to do a remodel on that building, had all those things that I talked about. I gave him a list of the things we need to take care of, but we're not absolutely for sure, yeah.
Right.
There needs to be details.
Okay, so I volunteered to talk to Leonard on Monday and see if we can get some information, solid information. Wednesday, excuse. Is that because building is so slow?
No, it's because the building is closed for the holiday,
Oh,
and then he comes back on
oh,
Wednesday.
for Christ's sakes.
And we're actually getting.
Would
close
he
this
actually
year.
come to council?
Oh, yeah,
Would that be reasonable?
Yeah,
to ask
depending
him
on the
to come to
date.
Council?
After I talked to him, I think it would be reasonable if it sounded like we could,
I mean, at least that would give him
everyone a
the
chance
option
to.
to have 2-way communication.
Sure.
All of this.
I don't want to be just the mouthpiece for it.
What does our agenda look like for the next council meeting? Is it packed? Is it?
It's fairly busy, yeah, and it's been set, and the packet is, but, we might be able to have him here as a visitor.
We could have him here as a visitor, or, you know, I would be happy to show up half an hour early to have just a mini work session ahead of time, give him a little bit of time.
We could do that. Because we still have enough time to notice it.
Okay.
If you can find out if he's available.
I'll give Leonard a call after this meeting.
As
And
long as
if
we have
not,
3 of us there, if all of us can't be there, at least 3 of us can be there, it'll be recorded, whoever can't be here can watch it.
right, and if that doesn't work, we could set it up for Wednesday. While he's here and have him hold over or whatever. And then we can just have an informal work session where he can give us everything.
Okay,
If we can coordinate with everyone,
okay, that's doable.
okay? Because
Uh,
that still gives us enough time until Monday.
so Wednesday, you wanna meet with him and we'll have a chat, and then we'll see if we can retain him for a potential quick work session prior to our city council.
Yeah. Is that agreeable?
That sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
And so just so I'm kind of following along on this discussion guide. Most of the discussion we've been just having is about remodeling the existing building. Is there anything anybody wants to say about scaled down facility?
Yeah. Again, getting back to what we talked about at the last meeting, if we're talking about getting, asking folks to invest 5 million, 10 million, somewhere in the range of what it would cost to do everything that we need to do, they're gonna think, okay, that's a lot of money and we did everything that we need to do. So the next time that we ask them for money, it's gonna be that much harder. Whatever we do has to last us for at least that length of time for the bond. So we can't just put a Band-Aid on it, still pay, and have, say if we have a 10-year bond, we're still paying on that bond. And yet there's more that we have to go back to the voters and ask them for more, because that's not gonna happen. So I think that we cannot take off the table considering, okay, we make the police station perhaps work here, allow them to move into and use whatever space we vacate over there. But we build just a large enough facility to house the apparatus, give them showers, give them a locker room up at a place like the cottages, and really, again, scale it down. I don't know how many bays it would be. I don't like to say 2 bays, 3 bays, because you can configure bays and you could have 3 extra long bays and still say, I don't know, that's not the way you do it, but you figure out the bare minimum square footage that you need and you build it to that size, and it is just the fire station and it's up there at the cottages, which allows us also to do a number of things. Number one, I would very much like us to revisit that property up there. I do not want it to become county-controlled property. I don't think that's what's in the best interest of our folks in this community. I don't think the people that live up there around there are gonna want a bunch of Airbnbs or VRBOs at the end of their street. It'll impact our police and fire services, having that kind of thing happen. I would much rather have that under the control of our city, and that it, to me, is a smart area to take in if we're gonna take it in. So that's my thought.
I couldn't
And
agree more.
it gives us this, we do not have, clearly we've found that we don't have enough property to meet our needs now and in the future, and it would give us a little bit of breathing space as far as some unused property that is city-owned, that we could have some flexibility for problem solving in the future.
I think that the.
So let me just be clear about this. So you're saying police stays here,
Mm-hmm.
we remodel that for police.
Uh-huh.
Okay, just want to be clear about that. But the remodel for police might look a lot different than the remodel for fire. So then do we need to remodel?
Well, what I'm saying is, so there, we're not building critical infrastructure, we're not doing something completely new. We're gonna have to leave an office here or we would leave an office here for the fire to operate out of. And police would also operate out of here, but unfortunately, their locker rooms and their decontamination facilities would be on the north end of the community. I've been in worse situations, it can happen. Give me just a minute, I'll let you speak. As far as response times, yes, if you're living on the south end of this community, your response time might be a couple minutes more, but I've done maps and I've Googled it many ways, and it's really not that big of a difference. It's still better than if they were coming from Seaside. But if you live on the north end of the community, your response time is going to improve greatly. If you live out there off of Highlands Avenue, your response time is going to improve a lot. And I would like us not to take that off the table. I know, again, we're getting into the weeds. You can talk.
I think that before we make any decision about the cottage's property, I think that you girls ought to go down, set up a table down at the post office and ask the citizens that are going in and out of there where they want their fire station. Because I did that. And the majority of people that I spoke with, and I know a lot of people in this town, want it here in downtown Gearhart.
When did you do that?
I did it when I was running for the council.
Okay, but that was before everybody found out that what it was gonna cost
See,
to
that was,
rebuild here.
that was probably about 40% of the reason.
Well,
The amount of money that you guys were gonna designate for that, which the building would never be built for, but by that amount of money. The main reason was.
4 years ago, at 2% interest. It wouldn't
I'm
have,
just talking about the construction costs.
It was a time where we didn't really know what was going on. That's why we had those huge contingencies in there. And, you know, we don't know if we could have ultimately gotten that project done for the price that we came up with, but
no, we'll never know.
we'll never know. There you go. I mean, it's a little hard to go backwards that way, but it was close.
But the location was a key factor in that defeat.
Mhm.
Okay, so I think that what we need to do is to just, you guys wanna do a poll?
We're gonna do a
Poll
survey.
the people that are going to the post office.
Yeah, well, that's not everybody across the highway on the east side. That's not Carey Street. It is there, I mean, you know,
Well, I can tell you, everybody across the highway,
people in Surf Pines have post office
For
boxes.
timekeeping, so we've kind of gone through the options review and then the council input discussion is where we're at now. Which would last us for about another 20 minutes. And then after that, we'll talk about the next steps in the survey too. So you guys are in time.
Wait a minute, we had 10 minutes and 25 minutes.
Yep, and I just added that together, and so we're in the options review period,
It's 35.
35 minutes, and it is now 30. And you guys are starting to talk about counselor input and discussion, so what I'm saying is that we're in the room.
Yes, we have a half an hour. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's just go over this options review. One thing, could we all agree that we cannot do nothing,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Preston?
yeah, we have to do something.
Okay, so that is not an option, doing nothing. So we've talked about scale down, we've talked about some sort of a hybrid model. Is the 33 million, is there comfortability with going on with the plan that we have right now? Should that be an option when we survey?
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
I think we owe it to the people that showed up and did the work
Yeah.
and, you know, tried.
Yes.
We are not gonna make people in this community 100% happy with any option that we go forward with. There are gonna be people that are, if not happy with the idea of rebuilding here, and if we say, okay, we'll remodel and not deal with it and make it something that would survive a tsunami, then they are definitely not going to vote. I had some people that are like, well, yes, I get it, we gotta do something for our fire department, so I will say yes, but I don't really wanna say yes because I think that's the stupidest place we can build it. Now, if we say, okay, we want you to invest here, we want you to vote yes and spend $5 to $10 million here, but it's not gonna be resilient, they're gonna say, hell no. I know, I can think of many people right now off the top of my head that are gonna say that. On the other hand, if we build it too small, is that serving our community either? The fire trucks that we have over there, I was walking by McMinimans the other day and looking up at the condos over there. Am I wrong? Would we have a hell of a time if there was a fire in the top level of those condos over there?
They have standpipes.
What does that mean?
That means that you take the hydrant out front, hook it into the truck, take the truck and hook it into the standpipes, and you've got fire outlets on every floor, multiple outlets on every floor.
Okay, assuming that you can get up there, but what about trapped people and other issues?
Well-
you have?
It's a concrete structure.
If we have the Cascadia, do you think the 5-story condo's gonna?
I think it's gonna survive a heck of a
We
lot.
can't just concentrate on a Cascadia, that we gotta, how many times is minimum?
we're not gonna go out and buy a ladder truck.
I'm not saying we're gonna buy.
That's the beauty of our.
The mutual aid, that's the
Well-
only way we would be able to handle a 7-story pick. Is with their ladder truck. And their ladder truck can make 7, right?
8, they got it for trimmers.
Right, so
I'm not
But this-
recommending that we buy a ladder
But
truck.
but that building isn't 7 stories tall.
But there's all sorts of different hazards that we do take care of, and it's the situation that we're in, it's the mutual aid really benefits us, so when Seaside needs us for wildland and coverage, we're there for them. And when we have a fire, if we have a fire, if, God forbid, at that structure, then they will definitely be here to help us, so that's the beauty of mutual aid. So there is some flexibility. But
So I agree with you, Dana. I think that on our survey, we need to give every option.
And that includes the park. You know,
Well, I'm
I,
gonna accept, do nothing.
except do nothing, but
Right.
I believe if we're gonna offer up everything, then we have to offer up the park. And I don't want it at the park. You know, I was the one who took it off the table, but it was considered. You know,
I mean, I thought since you took it off the table, you wouldn't want it to be reconsidered.
I don't, but you know, if we're gonna look at everything, then we've gotta look at everything that's been discussed. You know,
The other thing I would like to know is if we're going to consider, the cottage's site is, Paulina came up with the idea of a vector analysis. And that would consist of the amount of calls, maybe over the last couple of years, I don't know what you wanna look at. That were closer to here versus closer to that site. I would wanna know what percentage of those calls that were closer to that site versus closer to this site were critical calls. I would want that piece of information as well. I'd like to see that,
Critical meaning
like for that,
medical.
fire,
Well,
no. 'Cause
I agree with you that a deep dive analysis on where the calls are, the number of calls, the changes in the trends of the calls would be valuable. The problem that we have is he is our only employee right now and he is busier than a one-armed wallpaper hanger. And coming up with that information might be tough. Is that something that we might be willing to pay an outside entity to do that evaluation for us?
Well, that's gonna be between Chad and Chief Como, so you guys need to make that decision, really.
With the, if I could add something real quick, with the program software we have, I can give you it's called a heat map within seconds of where our calls are. And that's just all of our calls put together. I think I can also tell that different time frames. But to separate up in the call type, that's what takes a long time.
Yeah, but see, I wouldn't wanna base my decision on, okay, well, you changed, 100 fire smoke detectors close to here versus you went and saved that guy's life up there.
Right.
It's a big difference.
Based off of age of neighborhoods also kind of depicts, we change a lot less smoke detector batteries in reserve than we do on South Ocean.
But one of the objections that people had to the cottage's location was that it wasn't close enough for a critical call, it wasn't close enough to, like, I don't know, South Gearhart, whatever. So if we don't have that many critical calls in South Gearhart, or if, the mutual aid could get there first, then that makes a difference in how we look at this.
It doesn't, the heat map would even tell you if there's any calls at all. I don't know when the last time we went like the Little Beach Loop. I don't even remember the last time we went there for any.
So when your time permits, whatever you can easily do off your software would be helpful for us. Just in terms of,
Some generic.
well, just trying to understand, is it a perception that this location is better because it's faster? Or is it true? Is it a fact? Cause I'm not sure.
Right, and there is variables, let's say we did have dormers and interns, then the interns that live not here right now would be here tonight, so that would greatly increase. Response there, and we do
No
turn
matter
lots
where they are.
Right, and we do turn lots of interns away, school age college people, just because there's no place for them to stay.
So your comment about changing more smoke detectors out in the reserve, which is all residential,
We do less there because it's newer.
okay? But down in Little Beach, whatever it is.
I don't remember that, I can pull it up.
Okay, but the thing is that there's very few people who live down there.
He said South Ocean.
See, so I mean, you're gonna go where the majority of the
Yeah.
people live, that's where your calls are gonna be.
Yeah.
But in the summertime, that place is packed.
Yeah, and I believe I can say like the summer, like June through August, I can do chunks of time. I think.
But the other consideration then, thank you for bringing that up, is that we bring the cottages into the urban growth boundary, we were gonna reduce the square footage of the lots for them, correct? That was part of,
That's their request.
yeah. So if we do that, there's gonna be a lot of people living up there. A lot of people.
Well, and they also want our water. But they're prepared to go ahead and drill their own wells, which will impact the amount of water that we're able to pull.
No, anyway.
I mean,
That's the thing.
it's a pretty complicated circle.
So I wrote that down as a task that you and I can work on.
Okay. Next section says round robin style. Each counselor gives their initial reactions. Maybe we've already done that. What feels realistic? What's DOA? And what info do you need to be comfortable? And we already have vector analysis as one thing. And
We need Leonard and OBC's information.
Survey.
we need the survey.
I need to know we've already started a list, we started last year, a list of some of the things that were wrong with the fire station, so I would like to work with.
I have like documents in my gigantic file on the fire station.
Yeah, I would like us to compile an actual list of the things that need to be, so we don't forget anything or overlook anything critical that would need to be changed in order for this building to be usable.
Is that something you and I could draft and give it to him to go, how's this look, so he's not spending his time? Cause we could sit down and I bet we could just bang that out.
Yep.
I gotta write that down, so that is list
So
of
a
needs.
list of needs. And we also should do one for the police department too, so we don't overlook them. And it wouldn't be a bad idea to do something with public works too, so that we don't end up being short-sighted and then get surprised down the road. Okay.
Let me just quickly ask, these things that we're considering right now, are we comfortable coming back in a month is what we tentatively have maybe agreed that we would come back? Does that seem reasonable to have those all as deliverables for a month from now?
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay, so,
at least having a survey ready to go out.
so you guys are gonna do the fire needs. Do you want me to talk to Chief Gregory and get a list from him?
When I started, looking into this last year, I already kind of got a list from him and from Chief Como. So, I think I can cover that too. Paulina can do that, and then we'll farm it out to them and have them give it back to us.
Okay.
But I appreciate it, but I think I would say we're 2/3 to 3/4 of the way down on that.
Okay, I just would check with him, make sure something hasn't changed or if he's
Right.
still in agreement with that.
Right.
And then, Do you want me to, I'd be happy to meet with Mark, McFadden. and-
That's one thing that I don't think anybody has done, is got a comprehensive list of what's working and what's not working over there.
Preston, that sound okay?
That's fine, I can, you know. That's fine.
Good. Anything else people need in the next 1 month to be more comfortable? What info you need?
I'm a little curious if remodeling without making it tsunami resilient, if that would impact our bond rate. How many people are gonna wanna invest in a facility that isn't, give us millions of dollars for a facility that isn't being built in a resilient manner?
So how about we will even broaden that out a little bit, and when we discuss the options with our bond council, if we say this is a remodel without a new structure, how does that affect interest rates and things like that? And then we'll look at, okay, in keeping in mind that this will not be a resilient building, community won't be able to rely on it. But yet we're still moving forward with, let's say, 5-10 million, whatever it turns out to be, what would that impact be on the bond ratings?
Yeah, and I wanna repeat that if it's a remodel, we can't go out for a 20-year.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, that's what,
Because it's not gonna get us through 20
oh,
years.
well, yeah, it'd be like,
You're talking a short turnaround, 5 to 10 years.
What's gonna happen in 10 years?
What could, I mean. This building is not gonna get any younger, and there's nothing that you're gonna be able to do to it now that isn't. That's gonna make it last forever, so it's still going to need, and the industry is constantly changing. If I were guessing, I would say in 5 to 10 years, you could reasonably anticipate that, as Seaside grows, as the communities around us grow, for example, the building that's going on in Plaza, crime is gonna increase to the point where we're like, okay, we want a full-time police force, which we don't have right now. We only have 3 officers. That's not a full-time police force. So you would need more staff, so you need a little bit more room for them. I'm thinking that you would want to consider the possibility of at least 1 or 2, if not more, paid staff for the fire department. They may need clerical staff to keep up with changes that are gonna happen in the industry. We don't know what type of equipment that's gonna come out, that could make their job safer, more efficient, that would benefit our folks that we would wanna get our hands on, and if that were to be the case, you'd want to be able to put it in your facility somewhere, so you always leave a little bit of wiggle room for that, not a lot, but at least a little bit. So, I mean, it's hard to predict, so you gotta kind of plan for what's, what you can't predict, but you can reasonably anticipate could happen.
A piece of information I'd like to have would probably come from the architects. And that would be if they take a look at a remodel situation over there. I'd like their estimate as to how long that remodel would be serviceable.
So basically the same as what David's saying.
Well, yeah, but I want the architects to weigh in.
But I'm just gonna push back on that. I think, I'm comfortable waiting until we know what the community wants.
Yeah, no,
Before we
absolutely.
go engage.
You were asking for pieces of information.
Yeah, no, all I'd say is 5 years goes by in a big hurry. 5
But I
years
mean,
ago,
how-
we were in the middle of the pandemic.
See, this is like, what's the cart and what's the horse? So if you put out a survey and say, well, you know, or you guys want that remodeled at the location. And then the architects come back later on and say, well, okay, well, we'll remodel it, but that's really only gonna be serviceable for about 5-10 years. Doesn't that sometimes affect what those people would have decided in the survey? I mean, it's, where's the cart and where's the horse?
Yeah, the two reasons why I've never felt that remodel was a good fit for it was, number one, the size of the building, it's just not large enough. It's already outdated, so that the idea that it lasts for a 20-year bond is just ludicrous to me. I mean, that just doesn't seem like a good investment. But the other thing is those walls, I mean, we're not talking about just going over and pointing those walls. Those walls are. Yeah. That's more your area of expertise than mine, but what it's gonna take to make those walls stand for another 20 years it worries me. That is gonna be so cost prohibitive that we might as well have built a brand new facility and had something that we could start fresh and it'll last us for 30 years.
Carrie, Preston?
I think it all has to do with what's underneath that building. And I'm talking about the concrete. In all the years since they built that in 58, I'm pretty sure that slab is probably at least 10 to 12 inches thick, minimum. It's not a 6-inch slab.
That's a good question.
You think it's healthy?
Huh?
You think it's healthy? How
I think it's somewhere
substantial?
between 10 to 12 inches of concrete, reinforced.
You gotta-
Which makes you feel pretty good.
Well, if they thicken the edges, it makes me feel really good.
Yeah.
And it could be different because the west half was added on later, correct? So that might be different from the east half, sounds right?
I mean, the volunteers would have done, I mean, if they built the east side with a 10-inch slab, they would have built the west side with a 10-inch slab. Particularly if Malton was involved there. And so, you know, that building is, I mean, the slab itself is really stable. So that gives us one thing, all right? Now, if you're talking about a seismic event that's gonna generate a tsunami that's gonna flood downtown Gearhart, you know, remodel a new building. I mean, you know, where's everybody gonna come from? I mean, the reality of it is, nobody's gonna get here. They're gonna, all the aid is gonna go to the valley. Because every bridge between here and Portland's gonna collapse.
Well,
The tidal wave's
it's
gonna,
gonna go to high ground too. They're not gonna be coming downtown.
no, what I'm saying is that Gearhart, as we know it today, all the critical infrastructure that the government is gonna pour into Oregon is gonna be in the Central Valley. I mean, when you look at it realistically, right? The wave, if it's as big as, you know, the geologists want us to believe and everything like, it's gonna go all the way to Bonneville Dam, all the way to the Oregon City Falls. You know, I mean, Astoria, both their fire departments are in the tsunami zone.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, they're only basically, they're only 6 feet above sea level. Just like the airport.
Well, but a tsunami isn't the only event that we have to plan.
No, that's
for. I
true.
mean,
That's what I'm
we have
saying. But if
this-
everybody's concentrating, you know, on just the seismic event and stuff like that. I mean, that's a small percentage of what these guys here need to plan
I'm
for the
worried
next
about a
20
couple of
years.
good, strong storms. That whole building shakes in a good storm.
Well, there's a way that you could probably tie everything, like Leonard said, you know, you know, but until we find out what's underneath it,
I agree.
that's the
That's
key,
what
start with the foundation.
Even Paulina found some neat material that they're using on concrete walls to strengthen them. That's all new space age stuff, so There's a lot of different possibilities.
I don't.
And as far as
don't get me
this-
wrong, I'm open to it if we can do it. I just don't want us to put so much money and go down the road and then go, gosh, it would have cost, we could have built a new building for this price.
I mean, as far as the outside of the building and everything like that, you put pressure treated battens on the outside of that block building and you clad it. And then you don't have the block building that's taking the beating of the weather, like it's happening over in Fadden's side. You know, I mean, you protect that.
Not to diverge too far, but on PBS last week, there was a piece on, it was from Florida International University, the engineering department. They've come up with concrete that has threads, has fibers of
Yeah.
metal in it that is a spray on. They're starting to use it on failing bridges. And I mean, like in the piece, if you go back and look at it from a couple of days ago, about 5 days ago. I mean, you're talking like, this was like the underneath of like Quartz Creek Bridge. I mean, like literally, it was this big old bridge and they're spraying the stuff on it.
You know why that is? They're protecting the steel.
Well, they're reinforcing it.
Yes.
They're protecting the steel from rotting out. It's what they're doing is they're covering it up.
And this was an actual reinforcement spray where it does
Yeah.
encapsulate this binding agent that protects it and reinforces it all at once.
Yeah.
Who knows what?
Well, the point is that I guess reinforced concrete's been around a long time, not just rebar, but actually, you know, mixing it in or however it's done, but this is this was kind of put out as a more cost
Efficient.
efficient way of doing it, because I guess reinforced concrete is really expensive, that's what I read.
Just for timekeeping, we got about 7 more minutes to discuss this and then we can move on to the next portion. Or whatever you want to do.
So points of alignment, I mean, I'm hearing some consensus, I've got some notes here with regard to to-dos and particular things people would like to know more about. Divergence, points of divergence. Help me out here, what have we diverged on?
Well, I think that we're all. Well, I guess maybe I shouldn't speak wrong. Just to be clear. I am all for whatever is going to make a safe working environment for them. If I am not working against a remodel if a remodel turned out to be feasible. I have worked enough public projects to be very, very, very suspicious of that a remodel would get us where we need to go in the most cost efficient manner and would be the best bang for our buck. That is my, if I would be delighted to be proven wrong. But I am going to ask a lot of questions, and it's not that I'm working against it, it's that I know a lot of voters that are gonna be no to this location, and especially no if it's not resilient.
So is there any energy to? So what, we know what we can get for 33.5 million. Is there any desire to go take a look at those plans and go, what can we make smaller, do without? Or is it as small as it's gonna, is it as small as it can be? And you all know more than I do about that.
How big is the city gonna grow? Because we're limping along on $1.50 a thousand.
Well,
If we have to increase the staff, you know, for the fire department, and we have to increase the staff for the police department, and we have to increase the staff for city public works, and we need to increase the staff for the city here, you're sure in hell not gonna do it on $1.50 a thousand.
No, it'll be a levy. It's the only way we're gonna get more money like that.
Because you only have, in the urban growth boundary, you only have where the cottages are gonna be.
Right.
Okay,
That's not even in their urban growth boundary, we'd have to go in.
I know we haven't seen the document yet, but the housing study is done and I've only glanced at it. But I do remember one of the things that it says about Gearhart is the lots, and Second Street is such a great example of this. The lots that have not been built on, for the most part, not all of them, but for the most part, they're difficult to build on lots.
okay, and you think the Weiderhorn's gonna split his property up?
Well,
Nothing
no.
against John.
Those are all, I mean, that is what the public, Portland State is taking as buildable lots for future.
Oh, in the mapping, they actually looked at that and they said, yes, but the possibility is low, so there's a
I
factor.
mean, this is
there.
kind of like the second redo of the buildable lots, because the first time they did it about 2 years ago, a while ago, it was, everybody felt like it was so inaccurate. I
Well, it
mean,
is
all the
inaccurate.
cities, I mean, all the cities did, and so,
Yeah.
you know, all
You
the
gotta
cities
take,
got
you
together.
gotta take the data gathering away from Portland State and give it to somebody that actually wants to do it.
I think it was actually 3J that did it, wasn't it, Chad?
Mhm.
It was done through the county and they had number, so I'm pretty sure Peter said it was 3J a number of times.
Well, so getting back to divergence. So everybody understands what my position is. My position is I am open to anything that gets us going in the right direction. I would be delighted for us to spend less money on this project because as I've already said, my concern is, and just like you spoke, we just mentioned, the city is going to need income in the future. We are getting to a point where we're gonna have to ask voters for more money. And so we have to prioritize what money are we gonna ask them for? Where can we do with less and maybe say, okay, this will be something we plan to take care of 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. But we have to be very, very honest and forthcoming with the citizens, because if we ask them for money, they're gonna think, well, you solved the problem, why are you asking me for more money? That is just the typical voter ways. Do with, you already asked me for more money, make do with what you've got. So we need to prioritize and think about where are we going in the future.
That's
That
what,
would be a strategic plan.
that's what happened to the water bond.
What do you mean?
Well, they passed the first water bond and then they realized that they didn't have enough money, so then they asked us for another $6 million.
It was a little bit more complicated.
Well, that was because the standards changed, the codes changed.
Those change all the time, this is.
I think the point was that's probably the reason, no matter what the reasons were, that 3.7 or $4 million bond failed for the all new city hall and fire station. Was because of that, so he's agreeing with you that strategically we need to think this through as well.
So can we say that we're all open to, we all understand that this project needs to be less expensive than what the last proposal, but still needs to be good enough to get us by for some time and also allow us a little bit of wiggle room, or there be some consideration for other needs other than just the building that we're gonna need to keep our community safe in the future.
I would say yes, if the price point is what the citizens will pay for. I mean, to me, that's the key. They can't go around twisting their arm and go, you have to do the 30, I mean, you just can't. We have to say, what are you willing to pay?
I said that way back to the beginning. I said, why don't we ask the citizens if they're willing to pay? I
Okay,
don't read much into this. But I just wanna say one other thing. And we need to do what the citizens want done and what they're willing to foot the bill for. But I think in helping them to make that decision, we need to look at all the options as Carrie suggested. Come up with maybe some, different configurations of who goes where and what happens to which building. And different sites, including different sites in there. My personal opinion about remodeling that building is it does not build for the future. It builds for the short-term future and that's it. And it's putting lipstick on a pig. That's my personal opinion, but it's not about me, it's about the citizens, so.
Well, I think that, when we had the general public meetings and everything like that, and the architects presented the site plan, and we had the blocks, we gave 6 tables, 6 groups. They realized that they're trying to pack 6 pounds of manure in a 2-pound can. So the people that actually showed up, and not all the naysayers or anything like that, the people that showed up actually realized what the city was up against.
And that's our problem, it's the people that showed up.
Yeah,
There's
versus,
such a small percentage of the people that are gonna be paying for this and voting for this. And that's,
how do you get those people engaged in what the real problem is?
Well, that might be a nice segue to the next section.
Yeah.
Okay, how do you get everybody on the east side involved? How do you get all those finger spurs that you guys annexed in to get money for the city? How do you get them involved in the city? Because right now, they're all feeling like,
Probably Instagram, QR codes, 3-second thoughts, because I'm told that's what people's,
so they have an attention span about as
Attention
long
span.
as they're goldfish.
well,
you
do you have
know,
one of these things that you ever go? Scroll, it's 3 seconds.
Some people are never going to get involved, they just are going to vote. Not everybody wants to be involved. Folks that wanted to be involved were involved. I don't think you're going to change that. I think at some point, we're gonna have to do the best plan that we have and have a little bit of courage and put it out to the voters. The thing is, what we gotta realize is that
We have done that. We did do something creative.
right, you did,
Courageous.
and
4 years ago.
I know, and I absolutely applaud you for it, it failed, bonds failed. We have an interesting dynamic in this city, I mean, if you go just a couple miles that way, you've got a community that every time they put a levy for them for fire or police, they pass it. And then you come 2 miles this way and they have not been able to pass anything since 2003. The only one who's bringing any money in for the fire department is the fire department itself. And then everybody is griping at them and is suspicious. I've never been in a community like this. I don't know how to change it, but I don't think it's gonna be Instagram. I think we're just going to have to get the courage up to say, this is, we as leaders, we were voted to make this decision, we make this decision and we put it out there. But you're right, we never ever let them think that not doing something is an option, because that would be a failure for us as leaders. Because we are fast going down a road of where this community, what we're doing is not sustainable for this community.
So we're gonna move to this last section, 20 minutes, we'll be out of here on time. This is next steps and survey on the back, let's see, I'm just trying to see. Okay, so we're right here. Right there, looking at this. Well. Gotcha. So the first question here is, what do we want the survey to test? And We don't have any survey questions.
No, I didn't get that far.
Location,
Location and cost.
like cost, like the way I wrote the question on the draft that Chad has is, what will your household support? $1 per assessed, 1.5, $2, 2.53. I mean, once we get to 3, we're at pretty much 30 million, I think. Wasn't it 3.14 or something?
So you're there, yeah.
I would caution you with that, because if, whatever your bottom number is, it has to be a realistic number. Because if you,
Shortchange or something.
yeah, if you say, hey, can you do $1? And then it turns out we can't do anything for $1, then it looks like a bait and switch.
Yeah.
And it's misleading.
There has to be a price point besides $3 per thousand.
Right, and so we need to have an idea of what it's gonna cost for A, B, and C.
Cost for each option.
And I think,
In other words, the cost should be tied to an option. Is that what you guys are saying?
that's what I think.
Why put it out there if you don't have a package? There's this package and it costs this much, there's this package and it costs this much, and then there's this one and it costs this much.
Right,
What about putting some kind of question on there about, would you prefer that we build for the short term or for the long term? I mean, that's not necessarily the wording that I would use, but.
Yeah. Generational is the word I use. Is it a Band-Aid or is it generational?
Well, I guess if you were gonna ask them something like that, if we spend $5 to $10 million now, do you understand, and would you be willing to reinvest in 5 to 10 years?
That's a good way, but. Yes.
You think people are gonna stick around here? Well, I mean, there's been a lot of nomads coming out of here.
Like,
In my life.
and then there are people that stick around.
Then there's
So
people
there-
that stick
there are
around.
People that are like me, that are like, I need somebody to come pick me up off the floor at 2:00 in the morning when I'm 65 years old, and if we don't figure this out, then I might be a nomad. I'm
65.
Well, I'm not getting any
Hey,
younger,
we're
and
in
I
better
wanna,
shape
I
than
wanna
that.
know that I'm gonna have medical care and somebody's gonna come put a fire out in my house, and that doesn't happen,
You child.
without planning.
Okay, I'm gonna just go through these questions that Chad wrote. What's our threshold for moving forward? It says majority support for a smaller facility. In other words, I guess what he's asking us to decide here, and I'm not sure we can decide this right now. His example, majority support for a smaller facility, or say a lower price, or whatever it ends up to be.
I don't understand the word
I mean-
threshold.
We did learn from the survey people 2 key statistics. One is, Chad, you might have to help me out here.
With the threshold situation,
Yeah, like one is you want to,
when we came up with this, it's clear decision points. At what point is it appropriate to proceed? At what point is it appropriate to pause? When do we recalibrate? And we're kind of working through that now, and I don't think we have enough information. But there's going to be some spaces within the next month to say, okay, now that we have this information, we have a threshold here. Do we proceed? Do we pause? Do we recalibrate?
step through the door, you're not talking about a high bar.
No, correct,
Okay, that's why I questioned that word.
correct, stepping through the next doors now.
Got it.
Yeah, what the threshold is for our voters, that I have no idea how to get to quickly, but whether it be survey or all those other things, but what are the next steps? And when do we know to continue or to recalibrate, but that's what we're doing.
Yeah, I think it'll come out in the process.
So from architects, we don't really need anything at this time. What we need is Leonard's input.
I've talked to the architects about some of the options that we're thinking. And one of them was the remodel, and they said that, yeah, I mean, firms such as them would be happy to help with going through what a remodel would look like on a building, if we get there.
Wrap up and assignments.
Well, you wanna talk about the timeline for the 2026 ballot? That's under survey next steps. So, is that where we're at?
I do
Confirm
not see it
action
on
items.
mine.
Confirm action items, staff to draft survey, architect to explore, reduce scope, et cetera, and with a clear timeline. Well,
Okay, I can tell you. The governor is not going to come to Gearhart. Okay, I haven't contacted her wife yet. But there's always a back door. So I'm going to pose the question to her, since they are still, according to my sources, here in the area on occasion. There is a critical infrastructure meeting being held at the convention center. I don't know if that's been advertised, but that is with Oregon Solutions, and they are having a powwow there. That's another thing I'm going to crash.
when?
I don't know, it was slipped in a conversation to me with one of them who she didn't want to be named. But they are something that's happened. And I haven't been in touch with Nate to find out if we're allowed to.
I have an insight with Oregon Solutions, Manuel Padilla. I'll ask him if there's anything going on there and would we be interested, or is it open?
Okay,
Well, if they're coming to Seaside and it's at the convention center, well, then you're spending our taxpayers' money. And we should be able to go in there and talk to them. I realize that isn't the way politics works, but
And the purpose of that would be to see if we truly have to follow the law.
well, we have to follow
Yeah, but.
the law. I mean, it's, the way they wrote it
We
is,
took a note.
there's no waivers as far as critical infrastructure. If we're building in this area.
well, they already did waiver some, because when they first came out with the rule. Everything on the Oregon coast was in the tsunami zone. They
Right.
had to make exceptions.
Yeah, that may be, but it's in the ORS, it doesn't allow any waivers for critical infrastructure. That's the way it's written.
Yeah, that's realistically, there is no way that they're going to create liability for themselves, nor do we really want them to give us a waiver and say, yes, build a building that we think is unsafe. I don't think that is a reasonable expectation, nor would it be reasonable to expect that they're gonna, given their current money situation, that there's gonna be any money coming from outside entities to save us. So, this community has to think about what is our community, what's it gonna look like in the future? Are we going to change anything? Are we gonna allow more tourism? Are we gonna allow more Airbnbs? Or are we going to pay for this type of stuff ourselves? Or are we just simply gonna be slumlords to our employees until they decide to stop showing up? Those are really, to me, those are our options. So I probably would not be the best person to advise on what kind of questions to put on a poll or on a survey.
That's noted.
I still appreciate your input.
I know Paulina had some questions set up and then you came up with a list that we forwarded to the city councils as well. And you know, there's general questions on a survey that, you know, like, do you agree that Gearhart needs to replace or remodel the police and fire station? Which options do you feel the city should, you know, a new building at 33, a smaller scale down building at 22, or remodeling at 10, other not sure. Location
And
preference.
don't say 10 because we don't have a price.
Throwing numbers out.
Yeah,
I don't know
right.
if it was 22 either.
Yeah, but this is being
Yeah.
recorded and,
Yeah, I have no idea how much that's.
all right,
gonna cost. You're
okay, thank you. I just
absolutely
wanted to be sure that was on the record.
right. Copy that. I have no idea. Location preference, cost sensitivity, at what project cost level would you consider supporting? Under 20, from 20 to 25, it's a, you know, that sort of thing. Tax impact, how much of an increase in property taxes would you be willing to support? Is it up to $10 a month? Is it up to $20 a month? And then we can calculate, you know, these are just ideas. What are your priorities? You know, if we were to remodel or a new facility, would it be earthquake? Would it be adequate space for police and fire? Would it be community meeting? Modern equipment storage, energy efficiency? Do you feel the city has provided enough information about the public safety building project so far? Do you trust us? Yes or no? Decision making, how important is it to you that the city conducts community surveys and outreach before finalizing a ballot measure? Well, that's what we're doing now. A lot of different ways to go. The ones that you had were excellent as well. I think that if we were really serious to get into the survey issue, Paulina and I worked hard on a somewhat, you know, what that would look like, a timeline for how to do a survey, and we'd have to sit down as a group in a work session to really put these questions together, come up with what ones we really want, the 10 or so, and then to move forward with it through staff to save some money, but it would be still staff time. And those sorts of things. So that's what next steps in survey was kind of to discuss.
Well, are you and is council, the rest of council, comfortable waiting on finalizing a survey for 4 weeks, basically?
The timeline for survey development starts in the fall. If you started working on that in September and got it out by November, we would be then November, get the results back in December, January, and that gives us some time to make some decisions.
I'd like to compress that time moving on this
I'm
topic.
going a little long.
Can we go to October,
Like
go September?
the development would be September, October, and get it out by the end of October kind of
Yeah.
thing. Potentially.
Mid-October to end of October, get it out, give us some time to do something with the information, because what if they say remodel, we don't even know what that looks like, we have to get some information. Figure out how to pay for that information about whether a remodel even could happen.
Because if you're using SurveyMonkey or something, you should be able to produce some results pretty quickly, I would think.
There's some new technologies out there that we've been using. The last time we did a survey, it worked pretty okay, but I would need to spend some, you know, decent time with Christie. She's the one with the experience and she's gonna be the one having to handle the income and all that, so we could discuss it, but I think with that kind of timeline, it's possible. It's probable.
Is there a way we can compile all the past surveys and put them in one spot under our facts or something. So that, because this misleading red herring that people are out there trotting around, that we're, there's somebody behind the grassy knoll with all of our survey results that they're keeping from the public. And we put it out there so that we don't have to, it seems like we're spending a lot of time and energy with, and it's ridiculous, just put it out there, would be my preference. Because that's gonna be something they're gonna say, well, why would we fill out this survey if they're not giving us results of the other surveys? Just-
But we've given,
I
it's
know.
just, he doesn't, they don't remember.
And they weren't there.
I know,
They
well,
weren't at the town hall meetings, they did it all.
I know,
They would like it celebrated out there. We do have all that information. It wouldn't be that tough to get out.
right,
I've already started collecting that because of that request.
yeah, let's just put it out there, and that way, I mean, we could keep wasting our time revisiting this over and over and over again, or we could put it all in one place where we can direct
No,
people.
and truthfully, the surveys came out in favor of the direction we were heading.
Well, we have nothing to hide, so just.
Correct.
I would just say, in terms of timeline to May of '26, take a look at this. And for now, I would say, if there's something on this that just absolutely is, I couldn't live with it, like, make a note of it so that we can maybe, if there's things on this that we don't wanna do, we wanna get rid of them. And, I think these winter, spring, I think we really have to like flush that out as good as we can by the months. So that we have we gotta get this done in the year.
Are you
We talk
available?
about phase 3.
Are you available next Tuesday?
Oh, yeah.
Or
Yeah,
regular
yeah.
time? Okay, so I just put that in the calendar. If people wanna go through, tell us what's on there that we don't need, and to tell us what's not on there that we probably need, that would be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then, Lana and I can work to to add in some dates and to reconfigure a little bit, and then we'll be much farther along Wednesday. Then next Wednesday, we'll hear from Leonard, one way or the other, and potentially a work session to discuss that aspect of it, just to see what the possibilities are. And then we'll schedule another work session between now and the November city council meeting to discuss about some of the things that we've learned.
October, city council?
Yeah, what did I say, November? Yeah, sorry, I'm a month ahead of my head. So, yeah, the October city council meeting. Prior to that one. Which is right on October 1st.
Would you be interested in having a monthly for a couple of months, the week before council?
I thought that's what we were setting up last,
Doing, yeah, okay.
Okay, and this time here works pretty good for staff, if it worked okay for you guys. I know some of you still doing some work and traveling and things like that.
yeah, it worked just fine.
Preston? How about this time for work session, is it okay?
I'm gonna get here.
So you and I will get together about our homework assignment. You want information, feedback on this by Tuesday?
And it doesn't have to be me.
Sharon, you're gonna meet with Mark. You're gonna talk to Leonard. And the mayor's wife, I mean, not the mayor's wife, the
I'm going to
governor's
talk
wife.
to them.
Not your
mayor's
wife
wife.
when you go home.
Okay, before, yeah, and then I also wanted to, maybe give you, at the end of this meeting, before we do wrap up, we've got Josh here, with the fire department, unfortunately, the other Josh is in Hawaii. I don't say that's unfortunate because I've been thinking about that a lot lately.
Going?
Yes. Does anybody have any questions for Josh? Or Josh, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
I have a few thoughts, if I could.
Mm-hmm.
So there's been a lot of stuff kind of tossed back and forth around in it. you don't wanna prep or plan to a fault for something in the future. One thing that comes to mind, for me, like, our plan used to be when there was an earthquake, all of our apparatus would go to a certain location. That was our plan. But if we planned for that and we couldn't make that happen, what if the apparatus couldn't move? What if we didn't have the staffing? What if that tsunami evacuation area wasn't gonna work? You can plan to fail. And I don't wanna plan to fail in building this great huge facility. Let's say we got the vote, so we have this huge great facility passed. We can't operate normally. One thing Gregor and I talked about quite a bit is our current operations, how we're currently understaffed, or how we currently our budgets are so small and super hard to get done what we need to get done, whether it's apparatus maintenance or just daily operational stuff. And I know council's working on that, and I think in a month or two, there's a committee being put together, something looking at.
We've committed to talking about that in upcoming meetings, yeah, revenue sources.
I just don't want that to get pushed to the side and all the focus be on this new facility, and then now as a huge citywide, there's this huge hole because all our focus has been on this great new facility.
We can't get television.
The other thing is that I don't think you can plan for the future without looking at seeing what's working currently. Currently, we're out of space. We're busting at the same nets for the fire and the police side, and you guys all know that. I said from the beginning, I don't care, build a pole barn, it doesn't matter to me. And if it was an option, if we could, I know we can. Space is a huge thing, and that's really what we need, and so we talk about downsizing. With that, I wanna make sure we're not talking about downsizing from what we have, because what we have is already too small. Not function with what we have. It's cost us lots of money and cost us the ability to serve the community currently when I had an apparatus bed service for months because we didn't have enough space. I walked through that situation with you guys. So I wanna make sure that we don't do something and shortchange ourselves with that in the future. It gets scary when you start thinking and looking at, let's just downsize, well, what we have already is too small. But I think there's all sorts of options you can look at, like what if we could reinforce what we have, we can put a second story on it, and our training room's upstairs. What if what's now the training room, we could use, and then our base could be a little bit bigger or something, who knows what options are there, there's still that building for sale next to Dollar General. What if Public Works is there, and then I have their shop space or something to move into. And I do think, giving the citizens all these options, they're not gonna know what to do with it unless there's a dollar amount behind each option. I don't think they're gonna know what to vote for or what they think is good, whether it be here, whether it's across the highway, whether it's the old school, the park, or the cottages, what have you. And I know we have a tight timeline to fit all that in, it took us months to get to where we are. And to a certain point, when this project gets picked back up publicly, we're gonna have to backtrack a little bit, because there's been a lot of time that publicly nothing's happened, you guys have been busy doing stuff. But there's been a lull in it, so all our momentum we had has kind of stopped, we're gonna have to pick it back up and recreate stuff, so our timeline looks tight already. And we wanna, I feel like there's a shotgun effect taking place, which that's a great advertising marketing tool, we're just gonna shoot a bunch of different options out. But it's also the same effect we're taking place of, we could go here, we could remodel here, we could rebuild here, we could, like. To get all the details for all those options, what the voters want, that's almost an impossible feat. It's gonna be tough with that, but I agree, we gotta give them something, we just can't finally ask, hey, can we do this, what would you do? So it's tough. With all that, I know what we have is too small, that's what I can tell you, what we have is too small, and you all know it. You all know the building's falling apart in there, but whatever we can do in the meantime to help that process and to get something better. We can't look at the future without looking at currently, it's what we have currently working. I think we all know the answer is no with that, so we can't just say, well, let's just downsize it, let's downsize it. And then now we're smaller than what we are, because that's what the budget allows.
Yeah, and the part that's hard, I think, is that I don't know that the public knows that
And it's hard to,
it's inadequate.
yeah, and it's hard to show them that without even reality shows a day in the life of, or a week and let's come on for a week. And even with myself and the second person here, that's understaffed for what we are. Gregory with him and 2 officers is understaffed for the city what we are. It may have worked for years ago. We are so far behind as a city, we're not even operating currently, we shouldn't. This week I was underneath the engine replacing the hydraulic pump because it's not in the budget, it's sent to a mechanic. So I had to get the $1,000 part and I had to replace it. Because that's what the budget is, and how many fire chiefs is turning wrenches underneath their engines to make sure they operate. I'm not complaining about it, and it's great to have the office and do something next door for a while, and then there. But it's difficult to operate here.
Thanks, Josh.
Probably something only a Gearhart fire chief would.
Gets me out of the office, it's great, and it's working good, so I. Everything's good.
That's a good mechanic.
And passing it back to you.
I have one question, so, vector analysis, so the things that I wrote down for potentially the next work session. Vector analysis, which is something that Josh was going to do, whatever he could do easily in order to get. The mayor was gonna talk to Leonard and set that up. I have survey on there as a draft to bring back, but is that not what I'm hearing, that maybe the survey is not going to be a draft coming to the next work session?
No, I think it is.
Okay, so, and you're working on that together?
I'm probably working on it with Chad
Okay,
for at least
To
starters.
get it started and then get that information out so that we can, the survey is definitely part of it.
I mean, I would say if we send out a draft, is it acceptable that people by themselves get any ideas back to Chad and not reply to all? Or is that out of bounds?
I don't know, I have to check on that one because there was a new posting from the ethics.
On an individual basis, if you're coming to me with information, yeah, you're not gonna get into trouble.
It's your passing it on to other,
Yeah, so then I would bring that together and say, here's all the ideas we talked about in work session.
right? But as far as that one, I talked to you,
Yeah.
so you could talk to them, and that just blows me away that they have to be that touchy about things. Okay,
Okay, and then there was also, to go along more with what you were talking about as far as task list, do you have anything more on that?
well, just, they talked about the lists, that Dana and Paulina were gonna work on the police and the fire. And then
And-
Sheridan was gonna meet with Mark Mordat just to get the essential list. The main list. And then everybody was gonna work on the task sheet.
Right.
Yeah. Then a couple more things, I will have some discussions with CIS insurance to discuss some of those, I think that's. Not too difficult, or maybe Justin can help me with that.
On questions.
Impact bond rating, impact on bond ratings. We'll have that discussion with staff. Preston, you said how deep the foundation is, Josh is over here going, I've got a shovel,
Right?
so if he's gonna figure that out. Just for giggles to get your foundation depths.
That'd be the footing.
On the west side.
Yes, excuse me, yeah, I think that,
And then drill,
Yeah, we can get a
core sample.
yeah, hopefully when we do that, we don't get water.
well, no, you're gonna, okay, so I mean, all you gotta do is take a 3/4 inch concrete.
Somebody give me some gum.
With an impact drill and zip it down.
Yeah, just go on down until you hit sand and then, and then see how, but I'm pretty sure the slab's probably somewhere around 10 inches, I would guess,
Hopefully.
because it's sure, I mean,
Just for people that are in here and listening online, we're talking about taking the survey in-house. and doing it rather than spending $20,000 on a survey. There's gonna be a cost in time and energy, but that's what we're thinking at this point. Okay, staff can potentially handle that.
Okay. Anything else from anyone? Adjourned.
Thank you all.
You get on Texas.
Recording stop.